Yo, what's good, Spirit Squad? Today we got an absolute banger of a legacy deck for y'all, and this is gonna be mono blue spirits with very heavy quotes. And the quotes exist because there are no actual spirits in this deck, but it functions a lot like mono blue spirits does in Pioneer. The idea is that we have Curious Obsession and Combat Research to go with some of our creatures that are going to be pretty hard to block, and in some cases truly unblockable, so that we can keep a stream of cards in hand and then use a bunch of free interaction to make sure our opponents don't really get to participate. So let's check this out. It's going to be pretty dope. For our mana base, incredibly simple. A giant pile of 15 basic islands, 1 Otawara, and then 2 wastelands. That's going to be it. No need to get really more complicated than that for your mana. Your creatures, again, we do have an unblockable Slitherblade here, which goes great with your Curious Obsession or your Combat Research. We've got Hope of Girapur, which is going to be a 1-mana 1/1. We have played this card in Pioneer here, and it's a flyer, which is already good, but even without a Curious effect, it still is relevant in a lot of cases. After you smack them with this thing, you can sacrifice it, and then they can't cast non-creature spells, and that's going to be pretty good because it effectively says skip a turn against a whole lot of decks right now. Another cool part about Hope of Girapur is that it's legendary. And legendary creatures with combat research are especially good because now it's going to have Ward 1 and a +1, where any of the non-legendary creatures don't get either of those benefits. This card is really just here to draw extra cards, but it's got great upside with exactly Hope of Girapur. Invisible Stalker is both hexproof and unblockable. Again, goes great with your Curious Obsessions. True Name Nemesis, well, I don't need to tell y'all how busted this card is. This thing's a real piece of shit. And, of course, it goes great with our namesake enchantments. And then we've got 2 copies of Brazen Borrow, which, of course, pull double duty. It's really great against things like Merit Lage tokens, but also flyers are just nice with Curious Obsessions. On this channel, I'm pretty sure we don't need to go over these cards, and let's slide to the right. So we've got a lot of free interaction here. We've got 4 copies of Daze, 4 copies of Force of Negation, and 4 copies of Force of Will. When these are going to be drawing you extra cards almost every turn, I'm not exactly worried about the having a whole extra blue card in hand thing. That's going to be a thing relatively often in this deck. And then we've got 4 copies of Subtlety, which actually is great for 2 reasons right now. First, it's just free interaction, so if your opponent's trying to cast like a Murktide Region or something, then that's already going to be pretty sweet. But you can also just cast Subtlety for 4 mana. That's going to be pretty nice down the road. And the reason I think Subtlety is especially good right now is because the current best deck in Legacy is actually Mono White Initiative, not Blue Red Delver for once. And Mono White Initiative is a deck that tries to power out its creatures using Cavernous Souls. Well, Subtlety doesn't actually counter anything. So if they go ahead and waste their first turn doing something like Ancient Tomb or like Cavern, Lotus Petal, Mox Diamond or something similar, right? You get to make them effectively waste an entire turn and Lotus Petal related resources by just putting a Subtlety in play, and their uncounterable spell is all of a sudden counterable. Sucks to be them. Our sideboard's got a bunch of relatively cool stuff as well. We've got 3 copies of Energy Flux here, which are going to be good against all manner of things. Right now, there's a lot of decks running around with like Chalice of the Void. We've got Mox Diamonds, Lotus Petals, all kinds of artifact mana. And then there's the entire blue 8-cast deck, which is basically an affinity deck on crack. And none of these are really things we want to face down. So Energy Flux is going to make their life really complicated, and we only have 1 artifact in the entire deck anyway. Not, of course, counting this Grafdigger's Cage, but this doesn't come in against the same matchups that Energy Flux does, so who cares? We've got 2 copies of Back to Basics, and when you're going to be the player having 15 basic islands in your deck, it's going to be pretty easy to make this a one-sided nice thing to have. The other blue cards here are just going to be 2 copies of Hydroblast, which I think are going to be pretty good right now. Like, Blue Red Delver is still one of the best decks in the format. You don't really want to be looking at your opponent's Dragon Rage Channelers. It counters expressive iterations out of all manner of decks. And of course, as a mono blue deck, you can expect that lots of people are going to be putting in Pyroblast to help against your stuff. So Hydroblast helps you to fight that fight. We've got 2 copies of Dismember. This is going to just be really for any creature deck you see right now. and there's a lot of them. Creatures are really good. So Dismember is going to go in here. 3 copies of Leyline and a Void are going to be a pretty great help against really all of the graveyard shenanigan decks. And I don't think I'm opposed to putting this in against Blue-Red Delver right now either. We've got 2 more Wastelands in here, and honestly, these Wastelands are going to be primarily for the decks that are actually dedicated to things like Dark Depths. I don't think I would... Honestly, please do not put this in against things like Blue-Red Delver. You trying to screw them on mana just never works. Don't do this to yourself. But depending on how I feel, I might want to put some of these in against things like the Initiative deck, though, to be determined. And then there's going to be a 1-off Grafdigger's Cage. So this is obviously great against the graveyard decks like Hogak and stuff, but also don't forget this card's really good against elves. So if you face elves, just know that this card exists. But honestly, short and sweet deck tech. I'm excited to jam this. Let's see y'all in round 1. Today's video brought to you by FusionGamingOnline.com, your one-stop shop for all your gaming needs. All right, welcome to round 1. We are on the play against Boland, and our hand is gonna end up going back. I've got a 1-lander with no CO. Even if I do have a lot of interaction, I don't have a yeah, this ain't it for me. This is actually a lot better. So I'm gonna get to do this, pitch one of these 2 True Name Nemesis, and then I get to have Slither Blade with a CO and double Force of Will. Yeah, that feels much better. So let's keep this, put this back, and see what it is we are fighting against. Snow-covered plains, okay, and that doesn't really tell me anything, so let's just get the untap in. This is actually not bad. So opponent's just like Slither Blade. And to be fair, I can't say I blame you, right? Like, this is not exactly a normally legacy power level card. So I am going to pitch a little loath to put back the True Name, so I'm not going to. I'm gonna do the other Force of Will. So yes, we want to draw a card, and there's another Slither Blade. I'm actually gonna hold the other Slither Blade just in case I see a Force of Will. I'd rather keep the Slither Blade as fodder. Wait, is this Legacy Hammer time? It is. Okay, so we're fighting Legacy Hammer time. So now I get to mess with my opponent. Let's tell him a Pioneer deck versus a Modern deck. But I am going to use this opportunity to... Ooh. Let's attack first, actually, and see if I want to Wasteland the Urza Saga, or if I want to... Okay, now I definitely want to Wasteland the Urza Saga because I can play the Invisible Stalker. Aw, boo. Well, we tried to ruin their day a little bit. So I'm not going to do anything about the second Sigarda's Aid. Honestly, it's not important. The first one is already the problem. So let's go ahead and draw another card here. No blocks allowed. A Force of Will is actively a great draw. So I can pitch a Slither Blade, and I still have access to my Daze. And my board is pretty unblockable, so I don't particularly care about their ability to, like, make tokens just yet. I would appreciate True Name Nemesis being able to come down next turn. Hope of Girper is kind of mid. Let's see what happens, though. Another island is pretty good. So here I'm going to 1, 2, 3. You can have your token. I choose you. But even here, I still have 2 good pieces of interaction, right? Like, I've got my True Name Nemesis that can block the Construct token. I've got Daze and Force of Will with a Slither Blade I don't care about pitching. So all in all, not that bad. And they got the Shadow Spear, which is probably correct, but that also does mean I'm going to get to counter a, whatever the thing's called, Colossus Hammer. If they have 2 Colossus Hammer, then, you know, you got me. Wow. Sword of War and Peace. That's kind of hilarious, not gonna lie. I actually do think I should counter this, because if they just go, like, second Mox Opal, override, make 2 mana, then I don't want to, like, get bodied by that. Like, I feel like that has the ability to get me by surprise, and I just don't really want parts. And I get to Daze this too now. Sick. So they are still going to gain 4, but I'll soak up what I can here. Force of Negation's actually fine. I can just cast it. So let's just attack for 6. Draw a card. It's an island. Don't particularly want the island. I would really love one of my 2 Brazen Bowers here. That'd be great. Stoneforge Mystic. Okay. So that can get a hammer, but I have the Force of Negation for that. So I'm still going to take 5 here. Go to 9. They go to 13. Still not a Brazen Bower. Let's try to draw a Brazen Bower, please, deck, if you don't mind. So they would go back to 7 here. A Curious Obsession is not great if I'm keeping it real. And I will put an Obsession on here. And I'm going to put it on the True Name because they can still Swords to Plowshare this. And I just, would rather not. Do you serve better as potential force fodder or as a blocker? I'm going to put you in play as a blocker. Caracas, that can actually bounce my Hope of Garper, which is kind of hilarious. So I am just going to take 5 and go to 4 here. Yeah, I already can't beat a hammer if they have it, so whatever. So deck. Oh, that's actually perfect. Nice. So I was going to ask for a copy of Brazen Bower, but Otawara works really well too. So let's get a sweet attack in now. I'm just going to do this. So attacking with the Hope of Garper does a couple of things. First, it actually lets me use the sacrifice ability. So if they don't Caracas my Hope of Garper, I'm totally using that to prevent them from drawing the Colossus Hammer. And they do use it, so whatever. It is what it is. But you're still going to take 6. I get to draw 2 cards. A Subtlety's probably fine as far as draws go. So I'm going to Hope of Garper here. I can still use my Otawara. Yeah, I'm in for this. Esper Sentinel does not matter, and neither does Ancient Den. Perfect. So I want to let them declare the attack first, get this token to hell out of my face, and I'm going to block the Stoneforge with the Hope of Garper because I don't really care. Perfect, perfect, perfect. So that's game 1 against Hammer Time. I want to put in these energy fluxes, and I actually do want the Wastelands because we did see just how good Urza Saga can be. Things that I want to take out against them include Subtlety's a card I don't care about against them. And I'm going to take out 1 Hope of Garper. So taking out the Hope of Garper does 2 things for us. First, it lets us walk into our own energy flux just a little bit less. But also as a white deck, we saw their Caracas. So we just want to put out as few legendary creatures as possible. And taking out 1 Hope, make sure that we don't draw 2. Or at least I hope we don't draw 2. This hand is surprisingly not the worst. So I'm going to keep this. And my plan here is if things get too dangerous, I can... Oh, never mind. Now I'm not going to play the Slitherblade here because they can Swords to Plowshares it. What I want to do instead is hold the Slitherblade as fodder for the Force Negation and then play Invisible Stalker that they cannot Force of Will. Or Swords to Plowshares. I can't do anything about this, so that's going to happen. Whatever. And I assume they get Cauldron here. They do. That's mostly fine, actually. Like, I'm not happy about the Cauldron, but I do have Curious Obsession here. I've got Energy Flux slated for next turn as well if I want that. And I can tie up their mana by resolving the Energy Flux. They have an Ancient Den and the Cauldron. So life could certainly be a lot worse than this. So, real choices. I can just resolve Energy Flux now and know that I will not have the ability to use my Otawara, or I can put the CO on the Invisible Stalker and hope to draw Otawara, also putting a Slitherblade in play to produce at least something resembling a blocker. That also gives me another chance to draw a land. I can Wasteland their Wasteland, making my Energy Flux a little better as well. I think I should give myself a chance to at least try to draw the land. Hope of Garper? Definitely not what I wanted to see there. Okay, and I think this is actually a okay-ish. So now they went ahead and Wastelanded here. That means that I'm, in theory, going to get to resolve my Energy Flux here, and hopefully that helps to, get some of these artifacts the heck off the table. I will soak up 1 point of damage here, go to 10. And if I can draw a Petty Theft, so much the better. Okay, let's attack first, though. What's this? March on the CO. I actually think I want to Force of Will that. Another CO is not that bad. So here I'm going to resolve my Energy Flux. Mana Tithe! Yo! What is... Legacy, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, what is this format we're playing today? Ingenious Smith, I can't do anything about that. Oh, this is so funny. So I take 5, go to 4, and I'm still hoping to draw into exactly a copy of Petty Theft here to get rid of Cauldron. True Name is still not actually good enough. So I can CO, give myself 2 draw steps, but those draw steps have to be both a petty theft and a land. Or I can... It feels bad, man. Aw. I absorb 2, take 3, take 4, take 5. Yeah, alright. Alright, we can go to game 3. So here, I want to take these out too, and I'm going to put subtleties back in. But yeah, just like the dynamic of Force of Will to protect a March of Otherworldly Light that's targeting a Curious Obsession, immediately getting followed up by Energy Flux, getting mana tithed. What in the hell is happening here? So this is the... yeah, I'll keep this. So I've got Invisible Stalker into Combat Research, which is pretty dope. And if my Invisible Stalker gets force or mana tithed, I can Force of Will and protect it. Chrome Mox, we allow that. I don't have any of the... what am I thinking? I don't have any soft counters in here, like I'm not holding Spell Piercer Daze or anything right now. That is a Swords to Plowshares under the Chrome Mox, you got it. Mox Opal, that's artifact number 2. And Esper Sentinel, I'm actually gonna get rid of that. I'd rather not. Sick. They didn't have a land, so that actually turns off their Mox Opal too. Nice, nice. That means you can't get mana tithed. So how bad is it that I'm actually thinking about if I have to use the Force of Negation here, that I kind of want to pitch the True Name for it? That is fine. Okay, that's a good draw for later. So let's go ahead, draw my card. Don't mind if I do. True Name number 2 is not exactly what the doctor ordered here. So I'm going to keep the Wasteland in hand, though. I don't really want to give them an opportunity to start doing things. They have 2 mana here, which can be... I guess a Stoneforge Mystic is the card I want to see the least out of them. A Subtlety is pretty good. So let's attack first, though. Sigarda's Aid, which means they're getting rid of the Combat Research. Yeah, unfortunately, I gotta allow that. Can't do anything about it. So you just take 1 here. So do I play around a Mana Tithe? I have 2 of these, so I'm not gonna play around Mana Tithe. I'm just... if they have it, they have it. They do have it. Okay. Nope. You just got it. But now I'm closer to a 4th land for Subtlety. And... oh, well, never mind that. I'm just gonna do that now. Sick. Let's draw more cards. Draw more cards. Yes, and yield. And another island is pretty good. Yeah, I'm just going to get cards out of their hand. So if they have another Mana Tithe, so be it. You got it. So I am still completely okay with the way this is going currently. A Daze is also pretty nice, so that counters like a Stoneforge Mystic from these 2. And I don't mind playing the island. Now I can Subtlety without fear of being Mana Tithed. I'm going to put the trigger on the stack and get rid of that. So now we get a Force of Will in hand too. So I actually do want to draw another land so that I can Subtlety here. But a Combat Research certainly doesn't suck. And there's the Stoneforge Mystic that we talked about. So I'm just going to go ahead and cast my Subtlety at full price here and put that on the top or bottom, their choice. They put Stoneforge on top. You got it. But now my clock is actually somewhat respectable here. So Combat Research can go on this. I get to draw 2 cards now. And we draw an Energy Flux in a Daze? Hell yeah. Don't mind if I do. Opponent said GG's. Nice. So round 1 over Hammer Time. Let's keep it going, y'all. Welcome to round 2. We are playing against Senpai Blank. I wonder if they will notice me. Our hand is kind of mid, but I've got Double Force, a True Name Nemesis, and Double Force plus Subtlety will help me get to the 3rd turn so that I can True Name plus Combat Research. So I think I keep, but admit that it's sketchy. Being on the play will definitely help me get to that threshold of 3 mana that I need for True Name. So I think I'm a little more comfortable with this than I thought I was initially. If I'm playing against something where Subtlety is good, then this will feel a little better. Polluted Delta, though, does not necessarily hint at Subtlety being great. Are you a Thoughtseize? A Duress. So are we playing against A&T? I guess. I got 2 forces, and this is a match where I'm pretty comfortable pitching Subtlety, so I guess that's okay. So there's 1 force down, and another True Name. Okay. Are we another Duress? This time we are an actual Thoughtseize. Okay. I think I'm going to let this one slide too. I don't feel like pitching 2 cards to get rid of their 1, even though... because, I mean, you're already taking the Force of Will, right? So if I were to pitch something other than Force of Will, then I'm getting rid of 2 cards to essentially get the same goal for my opponent here. Yucky. 3rd land me, please. Okay, so that actually is kind of nice that they're not doing anything yet, but I also really need to be able to cast one of my creatures. So deck, if you could give me a third land, that would be great. Okay, they have 7 cards in hand now. I don't want 7 cards in hand. I want cards on a table. Now they're going to clean up. Are they discarding an Echo of Eons? A Brainstorm. And I have a 1-drop. Okay. And that's actually especially good against A&T because I can just sacrifice this to the ability too. So here, since I'm not doing anything else with my mana anyway, I'm just going to cast a Combat Research here. Like, I already don't have defense outside of this daze, so I'm just not even going to mess around. And if they don't draw a land this turn, I get to untap and start attacking with Hope of Gearper, so that feels pretty good. Lotus Petal, however, is not necessarily the best start for me to be seeing here. Do they know about the daze? They do not know about daze. Okay, Brainstorm is allowed. You got it. So best case scenario is that they actually just don't find a fetch land here and Brainstorm lock themselves. That would be lovely. I don't know if I see that happening, but that would be lovely. Dark Ritual is something that I'll be pretty happy to daze. So let's see if they have some kind of spirit guide. I doubt it. Sick. So now we're going to get to do this, and Curious Obsession is going to live here. So now I get to draw 2 cards, and let's see what these 2 cards are. So yes, I would love all of the cards if you don't mind. Ooh. So now I have a real choice to make. I can depend on their turn to be lackluster as all get out, or I can sacrifice the Hope of Gearper to deny them the ability to cast spells. I can untap True Name Nemesis, but then I'm not making any headway because I'm not doing anything here. So I'm actually going to give them 1 turn that is a completely open window, and they don't get to do anything with it. Perfect. So now I'm going to Ancestral Recall. I'm just going to draw a million cards. Okay, cool. So now I have Invisible Stalker. I can Wasteland if they do draw land, and I've got a Force of Will here. So I'm going to pitch the basic island because my next land drop is going to be to Wasteland anyway. All right, sick. They're not doing anything with their turns. Apologies to my opponent for a ton of missed land drops, but I will be very happy to acknowledge this is not my problem. What do I want to do here? I can just cast a True Name, choose you, then keep Force of Negation, Force of Will in my hand and be pretty happy about that. Yeah, all right, I'm good there. So let's pitch you in you, I guess. It doesn't actually matter. Yeah, so they missed a lot of land drops there to make that happen. So what do I want to do against A&T? I want to... Does A&T currently... I mean, I definitely want Subtleties gone. It just, like, doesn't really do anything. But they do fetch a lot of basics in. They don't play, like, Past in Flames anymore, so Hydroblast isn't that good. Wasteland can probably come in over 2 of the Subtleties. And the other 2 spots, I guess, could be back to basics, but that's not that great against a deck that can just fetch out a bunch of basics. I don't really think I care about the ley lines either. But they are better than Subtleties, except for the fact that Subtlety pitches to Force. This would be a little easier if it were TES, because I could just put in Energy Fluxes and get rid of like all their Mox Opals and stuff, but this is not that deck. So I think what I'm going to do here is simply leave the Subtleties in, because they can be pitched to my 8 Force of Will effects, and then see if that ends up being like good enough as far as plans are concerned. And honestly, this is not that bad. Like, I've got a Force of Will to protect against turn 1 shenanigans. I've got a Slither Blade and a Combat Research to go with it. And with this setup, I don't mind pitching the second Slither Blade, knowing that Invisible Stalker is immune to things like Abrupt Decays. Blue? Black for Duress. Okay, so you can get rid of my Force of Will. I'm gonna cry about that, and let's see if we don't just die next turn. My goal here is to not die next turn. That will help achieve that goal. Okay, so now we can help move to my turn here, and I'm gonna cast my Slither Blade. So they've got 5 cards in hand starting with their next draw step, so I am still pretty scared of what they could have. Brainstorm EOT. Okay, so they're really just trying to go for it next turn, but that's going to be a little bit harder since they got a basic island out of their deck. Island doesn't actually do anything as far as their combo colors. Bayou. Wishclaw Talisman. I will not lie and say I'm not scared of that card. This card scares the living shit out of me. Wasteland is actively great. So let's see what I draw with the Slither Blade before committing to the Wasteland. A Force of Negation is near perfect. Nice. So now I get to Wasteland that, Force of Negation pitching Slither Blade, next turn play Invisible Stalker. Since we saw a Bayou, our earlier point about the Invisible Stalker being immune to Abrupt Decay is actually pretty relevant here. And I don't mind if they decide to brainstorm here, get LED, and then like Wishclaw Talisman to try and Echo Vions, because I want them to get rid of their hand. So if that's what they want to do with this Wishclaw Talisman, I'm certainly going to allow that. Dark Ritual, yeah, that's fine. So they can Cabal Ritual. I think I'm actually supposed to force the Cabal Ritual here. Yeah. So now they don't have a hand, but they can pitch, go get something. Oh, never mind, they're just off it. Hell yeah, 2-0. Let's keep it going, y'all. We are in round 3 and on the draw with... Jesus Christ, this hand sucks. All right, going back. This hand does not. Yeah, I'm in for this. So let's do this. Skip out on a 3-drop here. And yeah, this is fine. So I get to like Slither Blade on turn 1, CO, and if they try to do anything particularly dangerous, Jesus, Underground Sea is definitely going to fit the definition of something dangerous. Has this card ever done anything fair? But I've got a Force of Negation to start there, so let's see what happens. True Name Nemesis, I'm actually kind of okay with that draw because this is something I don't mind pitching to the Force of Negation. I would rather double CO and draw a lot more cards and eventually get back to 3 mana and another True Name anyway. Another Ponder is completely fine. So we're facing another basic island Ponder list, which means I don't know quite yet whether we're playing against like A&T, we could be playing against Doomsday. We simply just don't know yet. Could also just be playing against Death Shadow that has a basic island in a deck. That's not very common, but it could be a thing. And if they are playing something more along the lines of fair stuff, I will be pretty happy to force a negation a Fatal Push if that happens too. Cabal Therapy. Okay, so I'm going to let that happen since I expect this to name Force of Will anyway. If they name Curious Obsession, then whatever, you got me. Like, if you are ultra mega big brain, I got. They do name Force of Will. Okay, sick. So I don't have any of those. I do have a Force of Negation, so meh. But now I get to untap and double CO here, which is going to feel real. Oh. Evil laugh commence. All right, get blooped, and I'm gonna draw 2 here. That feels good. Drawing 2 lands right after that doesn't necessarily feel great, but you know, whatever. It is what it is. So here, as they do something particularly dangerous, I will be happy to start with Force of Will, pitching True Name Nemesis, so that next turn I can untap and potentially hard cast this Force of Negation. So that'll be my plan if we start having to fight over something this turn. Okay, we've got a perfect Brainstorm. And what will this get? A Tundra. Are we looking at Cephalid Breakfast then? Baleful Strix. Well, guess what that can't do? Block. Don't care. Don't get me wrong, Baleful Strix doesn't suck, but it doesn't do anything in this matchup. You know what? On second thought, I actually like hiding the Baleful... not countering this even more. I think it might hide a little extra info somewhere. Ooh, choices. I can Wasteland the Tundra and take them off of most of their BS. Or... No. I think that's just a line. Yeah, let's do that. So I will be a little sad that I don't have my 3rd mana for this Force of Negation, so if that ends up being a thing that came up since we drew 4 lands, then, you know, it is what it is. I got played by my own deck here. But if they're just, like, brainstorming for setup here, then I'll be pretty happy to just hold my 1 regular force and then just kind of keep it going with the Slither Blade here. So do we find another fetch land? Yes, we do. So we go down to 12, which is actually kind of important if I just jam my True Name Nemesis. That does take an entire extra turn off of the clock here, and there's the Illusionist. So I am going to give myself a chance to fight over this here. Again, pitching the True Name, yeah. But drawing 4 lands is really going to hurt if they just, like, immediately... Oh, sick. Shoo! I didn't expect to get away with that, y'all. They can... Cabal Therapy, getting rid of the Baleful Strix if they really want to here, but I already got to use my Force of Will, so it's kind of whatever it is. I wonder why we're not attacking. I'm still not able to block. I'm sorry, you're not able to block. I'm not going to block. So let's untap here. Oops, all lands. All right, so let's draw 2 more cards. Hopefully they're 2 actual spells, please, and thank you. I guess I'll take 1 more spell. All right, so I'm gonna just leave open this Force of Negation to hardcast here. This is kind of silly, not gonna lie. Do they know about the Force of Negation? Yes, they do. So they can Cabal Therapy, getting rid of the Force of Negation, resolve their thing, and just kill me from here. But I've got 5 lands in my hand, so what can you do? Let's see if they name Force of Will again, though. No, they do take the card they know I have. Okay. So they know the coast is clear, because look at this nonsense. Since they know what I have, I don't mind yielding through the turn, so do what you gotta do, opponent. If I'm dead, I'm dead. Okay, so Brainstorm might be a good sign for me, and a Flooded Strain, so I still could just be dead. They've got 4 cards in hand, so really I'm just kind of hoping to fade a turn? Do I get to fade a turn? It's a fairy, so they can bounce the Slitherblade, so that is certainly not fading a turn. That is the exact opposite. Subtlety doesn't really do anything for me here, so I'm just going to cast it. So I'm going to cast the Subtlety rather than the Slitherblade, because the Subtlety can at least attack the Teferi down. So if I am somehow not dead here, then getting rid of Teferi will help to turn counterspells back on if I draw 1. So they don't shuffle, which is terrible for me. There's a Nomads, and there's an Illusionist. So, we're dead. And against Breakfast, I've actually got a lot of things I can do. So, I want the Ley Lines. I kind of want Dismembers. Do I want to turn this into a Wasteland game? Honestly, I think the answer is no. Gonna get rid of the Force of Negations. Reason for that is mostly because all of the cards that I am typically going to be concerned with out of this deck are gonna be the actual creatures. So like the Stoneforge Mystics, the Illusionists, the Nomads, things of that nature. The non-creatures, even Teferi, are a lot less important. They're important, just less so. Don't want Energy Flux, don't really care about Back to Basics. And now I'm thinking about whether I would rather have Force of Negation or Brazen Bower. And I think out of those 2, the answer is still going to be the Force of Negation. I think I want Brazen Bower less than that, even knowing they could Cauldron Complete me. No, I suppose that's false. Let's put the Brazen Bowers back in. I don't feel like dying to Cauldron Complete. Yeah. Alright, I'm in. It's not great, but I've got a threat, an answer, and an answer for their answer. So I can't really ask for too much more. Don't get me wrong, I'm gonna ask for a Curious Obsession, but I can't really ask for too much more. So let's see what happens from here. So draw step, if you're listening, I would absolutely love to get my hands on a Curious Obsession here. A Wasteland for the Tundra wouldn't be the worst since I'm holding a Daze, but I really want an Obsession. If we're running Perfect, I would like to run Obsession into Wasteland. Okay, so they don't shuffle with the Ponder, so they've got some faith in their hand. Not necessarily the best thing for me, so let's see what we draw. It's a Force of Will. Not quite the CO I asked for, but not bad either. We are casting a Ponder, that's fine. Don't really care about the Ponder. Yeah, like the Ponder type spells are not the ones that we're looking to really worry about. So they don't shuffle again, they have an Underground Sea, and there's a Cabal Therapy. So here, I'm going to give them a chance to take a Daze out of their own hand if they are on Daze. Since I have the card they're most likely to name in hand anyway, I don't mind doing this. Alright, sick. So I get to keep my Force of Will in hand. That helps if I draw basically any other blue card here. That counts. Although I do want to save the Subtlety until next turn if I am allowed to. And then just like draw another blue card so that I can hard cast the Subtlety and back it up with the Force of Will. That'd be pretty much perfect if I'm allowed to do that. If they just cast a Nomads, I'm going to let that happen though. Yeah, that one's fine. Nomads doesn't do anything by itself. The Illusionist is the one that we have to care about. Oh no, not like this deck. Alright, so what do I want to do here? I think my only big real priority here is going to be, well, now that we see the Urza Saga, that's going to be one. But I think my biggest priority from here is probably just going to end up being the Saga and then Teferi. I wouldn't exactly complain about drawing into a copy of Wasteland either. Not good, not bad. Okay. So, but now we're running into real danger of like potentially losing to just Saga tokens on their own. Subtlety being a 3/3 will be nice. Swords my Silver Blade, you got it. That's actually fine. So we go up to chapter 2 on the Saga. But now we're running into a very real problem of, quite honestly, the deck just like not doing anything. So Shuko can go onto one of the creatures and that's kind of whatever. Like Subtlety being a 3/3 will at least help solve that problem. So if they just like have another swords, or they want to like post combat to fairy and get rid of my ley line, then yeah, sure, I don't mind feeling stupid if that ends up being the case. But for now, I'm gonna give myself a chance to just block here. You block. There we go. And they do have another swords. Yikes. But at least doing that allowed me to deny them a token for this turn. Oh no, 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 no. All right. So what happens here? They make a token. The token's a 2/2 currently. They get an artifact of some sort. The artifact is a 3. The token becomes a 3/3 with the artifact. I get attacked, but I'm still at 22, so that's not that bad. So I really just want to see another creature. Oh, yeah, that's fine. I mean, not fine, but it's going to happen. So I go to 19 here, and I want to find preferably a True Name Nemesis. Another subtlety is not the worst, though. Okay, so the Aether Vial tells me that I'm supposed to be looking out for Baleful Strix then. That'll be a pain. And Aloran getting rid of my ley line would also be bad. But for now, let's give ourselves a chance to win combat again with subtlety. See if I'm allowed to do that. Another one, huh? I'm actually going to fight over this one. Okay, never mind. So I'm gonna go down to 18 after all is said and done here. And I'm the one who's stuck really looking for just all the pieces now. Okay. That's half a card, I guess. So Vials on 2, I take 3, go down to 15, and a land is kind of perfect as far as draws they could have for me. CO obviously will look great as soon as I eventually see a creature. To be determined on whenever that actually happens, though. So they go down to 13. So I have to assume this stays on 2. There's probably no reason to take that up to 3. We are casting it to Fairy. Fairy gets rid of my ley line, which could be pretty disastrous. So that is something that we acknowledged earlier that could potentially fuck us up. Now they have another card, so they could vial something in. And here, do I want to use Otawara? No, I think I'll wait until the end of the turn. So let's see what they do before deciding where Otawara wants to live. I can bounce the Aether Vial and open myself back up to counter spells. I can bounce one of these and reduce my clock just a little bit, but it's not pretty. I'm not bouncing to Fairy. That's just not happening. Yeah, I'm going to bounce the Aether Vial, and doing that opens me up to being able to draw Force of Will for this Oh, no, it doesn't. I have a fucking Teferi. Narcomoeba, okay. Nope, not a True Name. Okay. Yeah, True Name Nemesis is like very easily my best draw here. So I'm taking 4 a turn. Currently puts... Oh, Jesus. Alright, I'm probably super dead to that. The worst part about this is that a True Name Nemesis actually does still dig me out of this nonsense. It takes a lot of effort and a couple of turns worth of work. Oof. Whatever. Let's just go to the next round. I'm off it. Good games, opponent. Round 4's here. We are 2-1 playing against Super Kazola. I wonder what a Kazola is. Maybe that's just their name. This hand's actually fine. So I've got a Slitherblade into combat research, and that's not a bad start if they open up with a creature. And if they open up with spells instead, I've got like Force of Will, Force of Negation, and Subtlety. So lots and lots of options available. Volcanic Island, so my assumption here is that we're probably just playing against Blue-Red Delver then. And this plays nicely around Daze. So let's see what happens here. Unholy Heat. That can catch a Force of Will pitching a Subtlety. Are you going to force back? Please don't. No, I very specifically asked you to not do that. Well, this is going to suck. Okay. Brainstorm, you got it. So here, what do I want to draw? I suppose one of our best draws probably just looks like an Invisible Stalker that's got Hexproof. Or, yeah, Hexproof. And there's a Delver. Okay. We play Island and pass the turn here. Let's see if this thing is going to flip. There's a... this is a blind flip, and there's a Ponder. Great. Oh, there's a basic island in this list. Okay. I'm gonna take 3. Ponder's gonna set this up. Looks like we're getting Delvered, y'all. Oh, my Lanta. I don't see this going well. Another Force of Negation? This game's pretty much over. Alright, so let's see if this Delver flips. If it does, I don't mind going into the next game. Like, there's not... Oh, and... I guess I can counter the EI. I'll just take my lumps of 7. Oh, that puts a 4th type in 30 yards, so that's 9. Yeah, we're not coming back from that. So, what do I want here? I don't want Wastelands in the deck, and I do want Back to Basics. I want Hydroblasts, and I want Dismembers. I don't really care about force and negation against this deck. I also want these. So the Leyline of the Voids help stop things like Murktide Regent, and it makes Darcy kind of suck. This is acceptable. I got the one subtlety in hand that I've tried to get rid of, but oh well. Y'all know what's going to happen here, right? I am definitely going to draw 2 Leyline of the Voids right in a row. I am already planning on being really mad about that. Okay, so Ponder can happen. So I guess an ideal draw here probably looks just like an Invisible Stalker would be cool. I'd love that. Deck, if you're listening. Another Daze. That's an okay start. Okay, so now we've got blue-red. There's a Ponder. Ponder is fine. And I expect this to be a creature? No? No creature? Okay. Well, I get a creature. Oh no, I was joking. Alright, well, that is a real cost of including that card in your deck, so it is what it is. Here at least I can Daze a EI if they want to use it before fetching. They played a land first, so I really highly doubt that's going to be the play here. What are we doing with 3 mana? True Name Nemesis? Oh, Narset. Hell no. I'm actually just going to hard cast a Daze here. Okay, perfect. So now if I draw a land... No, but you know what? This might be some of my best opportunity to resolve this, so I'm going to give myself a chance to. And having Daze as the only source of protection isn't preferable, but it's not nothing. So let's see if they have a force. And they do, of course. Gross. I guess side of this now is that if they have a Murktide Regent, then hopefully they've exhausted a lot of resources, and I can just go ahead and subtlety it. So that's not nothing. I mean, that stinks, but, you know. And there's a Brainstorm. And another Daze. Don't really want more Dazes. You're a little bit past the point where that's a relevant magic card. A Hope of Girper. Okay. So I can cast a Hope, and I can subtlety pitching Daze if they just come at me with like a Murktide next turn. And the cool part about Hope specifically is that it can't be Hydroblasted, which is nice. Or Pyroblasted. What's this? Petty Theft? Oh, a Braid. That's... yeah, alright. Artifact has been destroyed. Mystic Sanctuary getting back the EI. Bad times for just me. There's the EI. Getting a little bit buried by these things. And yes, I technically have more cards in my hand than they do even after the EI, but they're seeing a lot more of their deck, so let's just like not get it twisted, right? And there's a Brainstorm, you got it. And there's a Wasteland which has 0 text in this matchup, thank God. So there's at least some benefit for us. And Slitherblade is a card I am at least kind of happy to see currently. That's fine, I can never do anything about that anyway. So now let's see what happens from here. Counterbalance. Can't do much about that. And there's an island. So now the question becomes, if they decide to just jam a Murktide Regent down my throat on this next turn, do I subtlety as a hard cast? That, I think I'm just going to dismember that. Let's have the Surveil resolve. Wasteland goes into their graveyard. Let's go to 16. Counterbalance will show us a what? Volcanic, so 0. So if they want Darcy to live, they got to actually do something. And they targeted me with the bauble, so they know what I'm drawing. Okay. And I'm drawing a CO, which is not great until my subtlety actually hits the table. So let's see on this next turn if it actually does. We're drawing up to 4 cards. Another EI. Yikes. And Brazen Bower is the draw. What's this? They're just casting the Brazen Bower. Okay, so here I actually get to cast my subtlety, and if they decide to Pyroblast, I can Daze. Oh, frick, they just had a Daze anyway. What am I really doing this game if the subtlety or the Brazen Bower resolves? Probably nothing. Yeah, let's just go to round 5, y'all. I don't know. We gave it a valiant effort, but sometimes you just draw the ley line after like turn 3 or 4, which was a real liability of the deck. We knew that going into it. And we got Delvered, so yeah, it is what it is. We lose to one of the best decks. Round 5, let's see if we can get a 3-2 out of this league. We're on to play against Cool User. I hope they are a cool user. I don't really want a one-lander without any kind of accelerating card draw, so let's mull this. And this is a lot better. So I'm going to keep this and pitch the second island. So I'm going to do this and cast the Hope of Girper here, knowing that my combat research can make it pretty good with the combination of Ward and a Wasteland. They're probably reading my Hope of Girper, if I'm being honest. And then from here, we get to figure out what we're going to be fighting against. Okay, so that has now resolved, and what is our opponent playing? Scalding Tarn, that tells me nothing. Tundra tells me a lot. Our Nomads, we're facing breakfast again. Okay, so here I'm going to combat research first, playing around days, and they are going to force my combat research. Okay, force pitching brainstorm, you got it. So let's get rid of your tundra then, and I would like to attack your face for 1. So this isn't that bad yet. I can just go ahead and draw with CO into a force, a daze, another land. I've got a lot of things that I can come off of a good draw step here. So I'll take the one from Nomads, that's kind of whatever. Oh, and a daze is actually really nice here. So this way, if they want to fight over... Oh, they don't. Okay. I was going to say, so if they wanted to fight over that Curious Obsession, I can daze and then just like replay the island as my land drop if needed be. But here I just get to draw a card. I don't really want more 3-drops deck. Okay, there's the Illusionist, so I am going to try to fight over that with the daze. Let's see if they have another counterspell backup. Ah, fuck. Alright. Looks like we just died again, y'all. I'm not going to make him do all the clicks. Alright, we're dead. So now that that game's over here, let's put the ley lines in. We do want Wastelands. I want Grafdigger's Cage. Force of Negation. And actually True Name, I think. So let's play first. And let's play with this hand. I could use like a very early drop here, but I've got Force of Will, I've got Leyline of the Void, and I've got a couple of Curious Effects in case I do draw an early creature. It's not that bad. And then I guess what's secretly decent about this is that I've got the 3-drop that I can pitch to the Force, because I don't plan on being able to cast True Name Nemesis for a while anyway. The Subtlety's also just like pretty decent. So there's a Nomads. You can have Nomads. That's the one I don't care about that much. Oh, a Brainstorm can happen. You got that. Okay, goodbye little Flooded Strand. Is this just another Nomads? No, it's a Ponder. You can have Ponders. And they're going to choose to not shuffle, so I'll just go ahead and take my 1 and get ready for next turn. Brazen Bower. Not quite. So deck, if you would like to choose this as the point where you want to remember we put 2 more lands in our deck, that'd be great. Urza Saga. Yikes. So now I just want like a Wasteland for this and a Stoneforge Mystic. So here I would really love to not have that happen. Let's try to Force of Will. Pitching to 3-drop I'll never be able to cast. Alright, well that was nice. The Hope of Girpur is not exactly what the doctor ordered here, but it is a 1-drop that goes well with these. So it's still not nothing. I don't know that I wouldn't have rather drawn a land, but I'm not going to complain about at least being able to accomplish part of my goal here. So I take the 1 here. I go to 16, and then if I can, I don't know, deal with Teferi for like a turn with Subtlety or something, that'd be great. Oh, speak of the devil. So let's pitch Brazen Borrower to start then. Yeah. So Teferi can go on top of your deck. So I can get really blown out here if they just have like a Swords to Plowshares. Please don't. Alright, combat research first. Is there a Swords in response? Please no. And then there's going to be a Teferi to bounce the ley line. Alright, I'll give it another draw step here. But, not looking great for the home team here either. Okay, so there's the Shuko, and there's the Teferi. Yeah, I don't think I'm beating the Teferi this match either. So, GG's to our opponent, and let's go to a little overview about today's deck. Okay, so, competitively, honestly, this deck was kind of a disaster. But that's not why we played this deck, right? Like, we saw that there was some mono-blue Curious Obsession deck just in the random deck dumps, and somebody actually did top 8 a tournament with a version of this. I believe it was one of the side events in Philly. So, good job to that pilot for basically taking what we're doing in Pioneer and extending it to Legacy. So it's a cool concept. I think in execution, it's might be a bit mid, but also a lot of it could also just have been like my mulligan decisioning, or even like the deck building decision of specifically putting Leyline in a Void in against a deck that has like Teferi Time Raveler rather than something like Unlicensed Hearse, for example, a card that I could have casted, or more copies of Grafdigger's Cage, for example. So some of that could have been deck building, some of that could have been that I needed to mulligan more or less aggressively. And I'm willing to admit that I can just, like, you know, maybe not have made all the right choices in a format that I don't play that much. But either way, the deck was really fun. And we got to do some sweet things. We got to, draw, I believe, 3 cards a turn at one point, where, yeah, every single time I swung with the Hope of Girpur was just like an ancestral recall. So honestly, that part was kind of dope. I don't know that 8 is the right number of 1-drop creatures. That might have needed to be a little bit higher too. So like Mausoleum Wanderers could have worked out pretty well on top of the Slither Blades and the Hope of Ghirapur. So that could have been something to look into. Maybe a shell of like 2 Hopes, 4 Wanderers, and 4 Slither Blades might end up being the key, to be determined. But realistically, this was super fun. Like, I don't know that I'll play this anytime soon as far as like a serious Legacy tournament or try to tune it or anything crazy like that. But just the idea of getting to take the thing that we're doing in Pioneer and then translating it to a format as powerful as Legacy was super interesting to at least give a try. And a lot of our sideboard cards, I think we actually put in everything but back to basics. So our sideboard was very relevant, and I like the sideboard quite a bit. But that's going to be it for today's video. So as always, if you like what you're watching, make sure to click like on the video and let me know how you like this really interesting build. Subscribe to the channel if you're new, and I'll see y'all on the next one.